Hi, my name is Ryan Sumner, and I did my U.S. History capstone project on the Watergate scandal and President Nixon's involvement. So, what was the Watergate scandal? Well, let's start from the beginning. The the Watergate scandal officially started in the Watergate office building. Five men burglarized their way into the office building and they were trying to put microphones and steal documents within this office. The security guard kind of was suspicious of their activity, so he called the cops, and it was a good thing he did because they were arrested for burglarizing and with intent to put the microphones in and steal documents. So he was right with his suspicions. So after that, it kind of kick-started into who was responsible for these actions. And it was between the White House and President Nixon's administration and President Nixon. Between the White House and the Nixon administration, people were kind of pointing fingers, I want to say predominantly towards the White House, but then the Washington Post really released some interesting documents that kind of put the five burglars in with the President Nixon administration's campaign. And the press, especially Washington Post and some key people within the Washington Post, really put forward the the ideas and kind of convincing evidence towards the burglary as initiated from the president and his administration. Then came the tapes. The tapes were very important within the Watergate scandal. They contained information and conversations between the president and his advisors and within other people that were in with the Watergate scandal and all of the wrongdoings involved with it. The tapes were definitely something to prove against Richard Nixon. He denied throughout the whole thing his involvement. He did not admit to anything. He he would never go into public to coincide with the things that were said against him in court or just in public. He would never publicly announce that he had nothing to do with it. He would always do it through television, radio, or just releases on paper. Which was kind of surprising to me, but I guess if you really are guilty, you don't really want to go in front of public and answer questions from the press or do anything that could possibly put you in a tough situation. So these tapes eventually would be released through force because I think the court essentially, when President Nixon did not hand them over after he fired some people too, he, the court eventually made him turn over the tapes, and that was it for Richard Nixon. He and his administration, they the tapes essentially, especially one of them, contained very important information that he was involved and his administration was guilty. At the end of the scandal, and Richard Nixon was proved to be guilty, and his administration and the people involved within the burglary were proved guilty, the citizens did not take very kindly to Richard Nixon at all. So his public image was suffering, or if not already suffered, a substantial loss. And he basically had two decisions: to be impeached, which he would be impeached, or, well, at least he would have a high chance of being impeached, or he could resign. And he chose to take a big step and resign, which I think is very more is really better than just being impeached. He kind of took the dignity and took his actions as consequences and resigned, which was good. But he wasn't relieved from the charges, as it was a pretty big crime for what he did. He was still being charged for his actions and his administration, but primarily his actions. So Gerald Ford was the next president after Richard Nixon, and he just kind of put it out there that we need to move on from this, and so he used his powers to relieve Richard Nixon of his crimes and just move on. There wouldn't be any further cases on Richard Nixon. He would be forgiven of his crimes and he would live his remainder of his life. I think this scandal, the Watergate scandal, was historically significant mainly because it really showed how much kind of trust we put into the government that to do everything right, but it shows that that's not always the case, and that Richard Nixon, even though was an okay president overall, he made some poor choices, and I think it's very important that we understand that everybody makes mistakes, and Richard Nixon made a big mistake there, and that some more tight regulations need to be around the presidency. As I mentioned before, Richard Nixon had wasn't giving over the tapes, and I think what I found most interesting when doing my research was that his just lack of public um he wouldn't go into public, like I said before, to address the claims against him, and he was just very defiant of doing things that at that point with the tapes you might as well just hand them over. I mean, don't go through the court thing, and you're already half, if not more than most of the population was already kind of against him. They knew he did it, so I found it very interesting that he just wouldn't give up. He really thought that he could get away with it and that he would somehow get out of this and still be president. It was just too horrible of a crime for a president to commit to get out of it and continue his presidency. That's what I found most interesting. Thank you. This has been my presentation on the Watergate scandal. Thank you.